On some of your management tools and techniques, there's a ton of management tools and techniques that are out there to help you. All right, they're often streamlined, right? The whole goal is the staff's got to get the information quickly to be able to address the issue. There's plenty of information incident management tools out there. You can go out there, there's a ton of them, all right? The goal is you can't do this on pen and paper. All right, some of the tools focus on the health of the software, some of the operating system, some will protect technical and some are safety. Some is a virtual desk, right? Where staff can report incidents. The whole goal, you got to get it when you're part of an organization. You got to have different tools and techniques. All right, so the whole goal, you can eliminate stipulations by the use of certain software. Well, there's some new things that ISACA wants you to be familiar with. This came out for this new modification on the exam. There's some tools they want you to be familiar with. One of the first tools that they want you to be familiar with is called the Endpoint Detection and Response, EDR, aka Endpoint Threat Detection and Response. EDR, ETDR. Okay, and what that is an integral endpoint security solution that combines real-time continuous monitoring and collection of endpoint data with rule-based automated response and analysis. Notice what they're talking about is real-time. Why is that so important? Because what we do is we do vulnerability tests and pen tests on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis. We need to know in real time whether or not we have a threat out there. So by running EDR or ETDR, you're going to be able to monitor and collect data from the endpoints that could indicate a threat. You can analyze the data to get any type of threat patterns, automatically respond to that, contain them, and notify security. Then you're going to use it has forensics, and some of them have forensics and analysis tools that allow you to research and go back in. So if you go back, you can actually see some of the new solutions out there. It's actually called EDR. EDR Solutions out there, and you'll start to see, here's some of the top 6 EDR tools in 2026. And you're starting to see them coming out right now. Again, you can see their integration, insight, and how EDR works. So again, I have Matt put this in the link for you. So you can see EDR Solutions continue to ingest data from the endpoints, including event logs, running apps. So basically, you've taken almost like the SIM and drilled it all the way down to the endpoint. All right, and you're really taking that concept there. But you can see how these are some of the top 6 tools. Signet 360 is a tool out there, right? And you can see some of those. And there's some of the features, and you can watch a demo out there. You have Symantec Endpoint Protection. They're now classified for EDR. You have some of these other ones, right? RSA Net Witness. You guys may already be familiar with some of these tools that are out there, okay? But notice the term EDR, CrowdStrike. A lot of people running CrowdStrike. That is an EDR solution, all right? Now, that's not the only thing that they want you to be familiar with. There's another one out there called Xdr. That's Extended Detection and Response. Xdr delivers visibility into the data across the networks, the clouds, the endpoints, the applications, while applying analytics and automation to detect, analyze, hunt, remediate today's and tomorrow's threats. All it is, it extends the range basically right here of EDR to a more deployed solution. It's broader. It's the same basic thing, but it's just extending it out to the networks. Does the same basic thing. So it was so funny, I was at RSA, and there were some companies at the RSA conference, which is now Xdr Solutions. And now here's some of your top 10 Xdr, and I have Matt put this in the link for you. There's some of the top 10 Xdr solutions out there. And you can go back through and you can read it. You see Signet, Palo Alto Networks, Sophos, McAfee, Microsoft Defender, Symantec. These are some of the same tools. All they did is, you can see, Cameron, some of you guys have upgraded, but they want you to be familiar with these new terms because some people have never heard of it. They heard of antivirus, they hear of malware. These are the terms that basically have replaced this, okay? Make sure you know these. These will be on the exam. All right, again, the bullets that you're going to see is right here on these same screens. And if you're not for sure how they work, all you do is read these features, download it, and you can see exactly how they work. Look at some of the demos, visualize it, and that way when you see the question, you know the difference if you see a question that comes from an EDR or whether or not it's an XDR. All right? You utilize the latest current technology, collects it, correlates it, and puts it into a basic threat, and you can get that information to a SIM. Or you can use an outsourced detection response. There's a ton of them out there. Outsource, right? You can outsource the threat hunting out there. It involves the human element. Security provides, it's called the MDR, which is called Managed Detection and Response. So again, you can go back out and you can do MDR solutions. And again, Here's some of them out there, why they're critical and how to choose them. I have Matt put this. Cynet's another company, right? They have managed detection and response, offers security mitigation and monitoring for the organizations. They monitor their customers' endpoints, networks, and various IT resources for security events. And once it's detected, the provider will look into it and take care of the issue without direct response from their clients. All right? And we'll double check. I don't know if they classify it with, you brought up a good point, this managed engine. I don't think they do. I don't think they do. The closest they have is they're similar, they call it OpenXDR, but their Log 360 is the closest you're gonna get to their XDR solution. And you can see that Gartner did a comparison for the managed engine against Cortex XDR. So I would say their Data Security Plus solution and their Managed Engine Log are the two closest from their XDR solution. It's so funny because managed engines aren't really saying the way they're saying it. They're not really in a lot of the buzz yet. But I did meet some of the managed engine folks. They're pinging me big time. Don't ever go to a managed engine booth because they'll never stop bothering you. Okay? But the key thing about your managed detection and response sitting out there is, right, it detects threats, but also analyzes all the factors involved. It provides you recommendations, and again, they can go in and resolve it for you. All right, that's the key thing. But security technology may have the ability to block, but digging deeper into hows and whys, that's why you may want to use a managed provider. The overall goal is you got to make sure you have detection because, again, you're trying to minimize. There's multiple ways. So the whole goal with the XDR, NDR, you can see they've added a lot more. You have NIDS, you have HIDS, you have antivirus, endpoint, logs, vulnerabilities, sniffers, baselines, central incident management systems. The whole goal is we got a ton of information for us to be able to come back and say, we are doing all of our due diligence to detect whether or not the likelihood of us going into an incident. And you got to be able to, the bad thing is you might have too much data. And you got to really try to go back in and figure out with all this information you're getting, which ones generate the response? Which one do you need to respond to? You could have all these dashboards, but when do you know when you got to go, when something goes red? You got to know when you want to have something go red that's going to require somebody to take some type of an action. And what we used to do is if anything did generate an alert, somebody had to go in there and sign off that they at least looked at it. But then when you got certain ones, then we had to correlate it, and then we said, we'll use correlation type information. So now we're getting the trends and patterns, and now you're gonna get your reactive detection, which is unusual suspicious activity because we correlated all this information to truly identify the threat. And that way you can then identify the threat. But what you gotta do is also know your vulnerabilities. You can have all these threats all day that you're seeing what's hitting you, but if you don't have the vulnerability, then why are you wasting your time? You're spending money on threats that may not impact you. Remember, some of these sites might give you threats that are out there, but those threats might not be able to exploit because you don't have a vulnerability for it. All right, so just don't always see the threats. That's why they're calling it threat and vulnerability management. The good news is we don't go into true threat, what they call threat detection, or they're actually calling it the new threat management piece, but that's what they're going into. Now, the other thing you also hear the term, you got a centralized incident response team. Centralized, exactly what it is. A single team handles all incidents. This works good for smaller organizations. Good chance they all work good together, right? The availability, if one team member is absent, other team members can step up. They got crossover training. The negative about this is difficult for the response team to cover several areas all at once, which thus can delay your response. All right? You can also have an outsourced team. An outsourced team is distributed, right? They split different responses into smaller teams. Work well when you have a spread out of organizations over wide areas, right? Each sub-team has a team leader and they act as a liaison between all the other teams. The positive, you can respond to multiple incidents at the same time. The negative, you're restricted to the protocols that the team communicates, because you got different teams, right? If a team leader is missing, it can become a single point of failure because you don't have all the cross-training. And if members of the team are missing, it could be a single point of failure. All right, that's your outsource. Now, the one that you also see that's new that they're pushing out here is called a coordinated incident response team. Now, there's pros and cons about this one. A coordinated incident response team is outsourcing incident response duties has its advantages. The pros on this coordinated incident response team is may result in lower costs, but because it's outsourced, you have to deal with the actual incident, does not have administrative capabilities. Okay? The con, you can delay your response time. The in-house response team, the advantages about that is members are selected by the staff. They can repair things in-house, okay? They might have a deeper understanding of the system. But the other problem is, and you guys all probably experienced this, I know John probably has, burnout. Because all you're doing is dealing with responses every freaking day. How many of you guys are in that mode? Every day you guys have been troubleshooting. You're always firefighting. Wow, I'm like, come on, man, I can't do this anymore. I am burnt out. Okay? You got to be careful on those burnouts. Okay? I've been on call almost 4 years. Okay? All right, kidding. You've also been in the snow too, right? I'm just kidding. All right? You also now, the next term you're going to see is called a CR. I know a lot of us have. That's the bad thing. A lot of us have. And we are at burnout mode. So the whole goal of ISACAs want you to do is build a process. Get out of always being on that firefighting mode, so you get that break, okay? You got to build a true security incident response team. All right, that's what you're trying to do, all right? You want to choose people with targeted skill sets and expertise. If you're the only one, don't be the single point of failure. You got to get them to how to respond, how to perform the analysis, how to work efficiently, okay? There's those other duties assigned, right? All right? Now, Ken, what I tell you guys to do, add that to your job description. Don't say other duties. Get the specifics on there. Because, you know, when I start putting all these other duties I'm getting, believe me, the next time I go to my annual review, I'm asking for more money. Okay? I'm asking for more money. All right? So again, the whole goal, when you have the whole thing on, you're going to see the CSIRT team, right? All right? The CSIRT, there's a set of skills, right? They're incident handlers. This is their specialty. Now, there's some white papers that talk about this. I want to talk about some of those white papers you're going to see when you're looking at some of those items there. Let me go back and get that right here for you. You're going to have your CRS team out there that you can do, and it's great. You can have a couple links out there, and I'll give you one of those links. Give me a second here. And we are right here. SCI has done a nice little, it's a PDF out there. And I don't know if I can pull this PDF, but you guys can type this PDF, or you can do a search under this particular PDF, copy, and see if I can get this to come across, paste. And what are the skills, basically, from Carnegie Mellon? What skills are needed when staffing your CISRT, right? Again, notice mission and goals of it, the nature of the services offered, the staff expertise, the constituted size. So Sam's did a good job, right? What are the basic skills? One of the first things you'll see is personnel skills. And that's one of the things here that ISACA really pushed in this year, right? If you're going to be truly an incident handler for your organization, you got to have personnel skills. All right? What are some of the things that they want you to be able to do? Cope with stress. Okay? This is stressful. We all know that. Incident handlers, we work in high stress environments when we're dealing with incidents. So you got to also recognize when you need it, we're going to be becoming stressed. You got to be willing to make fellow team members aware of the situation. You got to take the necessary steps to get that person help. You got to calm them, make sure their ability to keep calm in certain situations. Because you guys, who's that, John, right? Ken, you guys have got all these different times. You're working 4 straight years. You guys have probably got stress management down to a science. Because if you love the job, you love your company, the key thing is, right, if you don't know how to deal with stress, you're going to be in this heavy thing. You cannot blow up whiskey. I tell you, man. Hey, if that works, it works. That's not my solution, but hey, it works. Okay, mine's a hot tubs. All right, you can put me in a hot tub all day and I'm good to go. All right, but you notice here you got stress. You got also have communication skills. All right, you got to have presentation skills, diplomacy, ability to follow policies, procedures, team skills, integrity. I put integrity twice. You got to have integrity. You can't be lying on this. You got to sometimes be the bearer of bad news. You got to know what your limit is, okay? And you got to have good time management. It's very, very important. Some of the things you also got to have as an incident handler, some of your personal skills, technical skills, security principles, vulnerability weaknesses, internet, risk analysis, protocols. This is where I told you where you got to get some of those skills if you're going to be an incident. Now again, you are not the incident handler. You might be the manager of it, but you got to make sure your team members have these skills. Okay? Your role is not the incident handler. You're not that guy turning the screwdriver. That's why I talk about network protocols. But you should have a good background in this because you got to make sure that you can witness and recognize what's going on these teams. And all different skills. So again, the local policies and procedures, all right? There you go there. Now, your role during all this, right? You as the manager is responsible for the high-level information of it, right? In contrast to the information security staff that perform the hands-on, here's your responsibilities. Develop and maintain the management response. Effectively managing risk management. Performing proactive and reactive measures to control the risk level. Reporting of the program to senior leadership. Managing the specific teams on their responsibility and the personnel. You got to be the one to be able to see whether your guys are overly stressed, whether they overly worked. If they burn out, and remember, if they burn out too soon, they might make a mistake. That's why if you don't have enough people, find a way to outsource it. I've gone back and I've used interns. I've done all kind of things to get extra personnel that didn't cost me any money. All right. Above the ISM or above the senior leaders, right? You might have the ISM might be reporting to. You might report to the security steering group. Sometimes they're known as an SSG or the security advisory board. That's the executive committee. That's the overall approving charter that serves as the escalation point for the incident manager. It's usually going to be a security group, the SSG, and advisory, but you don't make all the final decisions. You are the advisor. Okay? Again, the other things, you got to make sure you have roles and responsibilities assigned for the other part, right? You got to have a group of IT professionals on the incident response team of IT professionals. They're charged of preparing for the incidents. They develop, they test, they maintain, and they provide for all the incidents. They typically have all the different backgrounds. If you got databases, you need somebody on your team that knows databases. If you guys have another one, like, okay, John, they're using a managed service provider for this. That means they got skill sets that John can say, hey, you know what? We don't have that skill set. But if we use our MSSP, that allows us to do that. But no matter what, your IRTs have got to be able to do leadership, investigate, communicate, document, and believe it or not, you better have legal involved in this. Okay, because remember I told you, due diligence, and you got the legal things, because if you're going to have a violation of something, you better make sure you have some lawyers present just in case.